Today we're going to be changing the MAF sensor, mass airflow sensor. You can save time and money by changing this sensor yourself. Our service vehicle today is a 2002 Ford F-150, and we're going to be changing the mass airflow sensor on our 4.6 liter engine. It's located right here, mass airflow. We're going to be disconnecting our battery first, our negative side. And then we're going to be removing the front and aft band. We're going to be disconnecting our connection down here, and we're going to remove this section. Let's get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect our negative battery cable. The battery is clearly labeled positive for positive, negative for negative. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this and we're going to move it aside. So let's just get into that. You're going to have to twist this a little bit, loosen it up, and free it up. As you can see, we have some corrosion on here. Prior to the installation, we'll clean this up with some sandpaper, or even a screwdriver will work for you. Okay, let's get started. Let's change our mass airflow sensor. So what we're going to do is we're going to locate our mass airflow sensor connection, which is right here. We're going to take a small screwdriver. We're going to push our safety clip down. We're going to disconnect this. Be real careful about the wires. They're very sensitive, and from the heat of the engine, they can become very brittle. You want to check the wire connections, make sure there's no exposed wires. So what we're going to do to access our mass airflow sensor is we're going to remove this band. We're going to move it forward and out. We're going to take our screwdriver, loosen our band right here, and we're going to separate the two units. We're going to move this. We're going to take this up out of here. Now we should be able to get to our mass airflow sensor. This is a connection we just removed. What you want to do is you want to note that our identification marks here, there's a small arrow pointing up, and then we have 4 little tabs here that we're going to pry this open a little bit. And our mass airflow sensor that we're replacing is right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our screwdriver, and we're just going to pop this out of here on these little tabs, which is going to access our unit. What we're going to do is we're going to roll this over. We're going to pull this plug out. We're actually going to turn this sideways and push it back into our air box. Now we're going to be able to remove the whole unit and access our mass airflow sensor. Prior to removing our bolts, what we're going to do is we're going to remove this connection here. Again, you want to be real careful not to damage the plug. We're going to take our screwdriver, we're going to release our clip, and we're going to gently pull this apart. Then what we're going to do is we'll remove our bolts. What we want to do is we want to be very careful not to crack the plastic. We're going to remove these bolts and remove it. We want to inspect the pieces for any kind of debris, dirt, and it's a good time to change the air filter also. And we're going to check our new part with our old part. So we want to make sure that our connections are correct and the part is pretty identical. This looks to be correct here. Our out, everything looks good. So we're going to lay this back on there. We're going to make sure that it's indexed properly. This can go on different directions, but it'll only go in one way. We're going to reinstall our bolts. What you want to do is you want to start both bolts first prior to tightening. So what we're going to do is we're going to torque these down to 89 inch-pounds. And we're going to double check our bolts. And double check. Now we're ready to put our connection back on. And you'll actually hear this click if it's properly installed. There we go. Now we're ready for the reassembly. Now we had our mark, our arrow on the top. We want to replace that back into the housing. What we're going to do is we're going to take our pigtail, our electrical connection, we're going to slide it through. We're going to take our rubber We're going to go the opposite direction in there and push that through at an angle and bring it up. Now that we have that in, we want to make sure that our lineup marks are in the proper position. We have our indexing marks on our housing, and we have our arrow to the top. We're just going to push that in, and now we're ready to reinstall. We're going to move our band back, and we're going to make sure our plug connection is securely in our housing. What we're going to do is the opposite. But before we do that, we're going to check our air filter. Oh, look at this. This is pretty dirty. It needs to be replaced. What we want to do is we want to take our old one and check it with our replacement, make sure they're the same. You can see how much cleaner this one is than our old one. We're going to discard this properly. And prior to the installing this, what we want to do is we want to check to make sure there's no debris in the bottom of our air filter housing. Everything looks great. We're just going to slide that in. Make sure it's secure and seated properly. What we're going to do, now that we have our air filter in, we're going to take our unit, make sure our arrow's pointing upward, slide on our band. We want to index this on the bottom. Make sure that's in properly. I'm going to take it. We're just going to slide it back in. We want to make sure that this is secure, top and bottom, and fitted properly. We're going to get our rubber on. We're going to make sure our housing is right there. There's a little index mark right here. And we're just going to snap that band right back on there. We're going to secure our band. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our electrical connection here. Again, be real careful with the wires. We're going to slide this in, and we're going to listen for the click. And then we're going to slide our unit back in here and secure it. Now that we've made our electrical connection, we're going to start our vehicle and check for our check engine light. Everything appears to be fine.